Welcome to a film breakdown on Sixers Talk. Now, this is the first film breakdown that I'm doing. I want to break down a little bit of this James Harden, Joel Embiid pick and roll and kind of give some insight as to why it works and why it's often as open as it is. You know, I kind of want this to just be the first video where I break down film and kind of give you some insight into how I see the game and the things that I notice when I'm watching these guys play. So let's jump into this first clip right here against the Knicks, right? So you get this action here with Tobias Harris setting the screen on RJ Barrett into a dribble handoff with Joel Embiid. So the reason why this action works so well is because Tobias Harris is setting an initial off-ball screen. RJ Barrett is already having to work through traffic in order to get over the screen that Joel Embiid is going to set. In the NBA, they value threes and they value layups. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to see an on-ball defender go over the top of the screen, and you're going to see the big kind of contain. The big is not looking to hedge because the big doesn't really care if he takes a mid-range shot. The big just doesn't want him to get a layup. So you'll see here RJ fights over the top, and because Mitchell Robinson here, the big, because he sees that RJ is already in trouble, you're going to see that Joel Embiid doesn't really have to set much of a screen to get Mitchell Robinson to help. You're going to see Mitchell Robinson is immediately, he's already looking to contain James Harden, whether or not RJ is actually getting hit by the screen. Usually, bigs are going to, they're going to be in help off of this screen and roll, but like RJ doesn't really get screened by Joel here. But again, that initial screen by Toby puts Mitchell Robinson in a position where he knows he needs to help earlier than usual. Now you get this roll from Joel Embiid, and James Harden is reading Julius Randle, right? Julius Randle is the guy that's in the tough spot here. If Julius Randle goes with Joel Embiid, you're going to have Tobias Harris wide open on the wing. If Julius Randle decides to guard the wing, well, then you get a dunk by Joel Embiid. So you can see right here, he already knows James Julius Randle he's on his heels, right? He's chilling, and he sees it, right? That's why he's already going into that pass. One dribble, he knows Julius Randle is beat. Julius Randle's in no man's land. Boom, you get the drop off to Joel Embiid. Later in the game, you get this same kind of action here, right? You get this off-ball screen for James Harden into a dribble handoff with Joel Embiid, except this time instead of Tobias Harris setting the screen, you have Matisse Thybulle setting the screen, but it's the same exact action. Watch Mitchell Robinson here. This time, Mitchell Robinson remembering what happened on the last possession where he didn't have help, right? Julius Randle was in no man's land. And his man gets the dunk, which is what everybody sees and blames Mitchell Robinson. If you're a casual fan, watch what Mitchell Robinson does here. He completely ignores James Harden. And I stop it early, but I stop it early here because on that previous clip, you saw he was already looking. But this time he bodies up to Joel Embiid and he sticks with him, turns his back to Harden. Now all Harden sees is this lane right here, right? You got, I believe this is Alec Burks, who's in a tough spot. He can't really overhelp because then you get a little kick to Maxey, which is a wide open three, and he doesn't want to do that, right? So Harden sees that, he turns the corner. If Mitchell Robinson would have done his job, Fournier was there on Joel Embiid, right? This is why, as a coach, my mantra is do your job. If he just trusts his teammate and does his job, he had the help. But because he remembered what happened the last time we ran this action, he stays with Joel. Evan Fournier realizes and tries to recover. The problem is Mitchell Robinson also realizes, and now he turns his back to Joel Embiid. So he's compounding these mistakes here. James Harden takes another step. Now you have Mitchell Robinson, who now has his back turned to Joel Embiid, has no idea where he is. You have an Evan Fournier who's now come out of his position, right? And then this leads to an easy alley-oop. All right, so in this next clip here, you're going to have a high pick and roll. There's no off-ball screen into dribble handoff, anything like that. This is like a standard pick and roll. Joe is going to set it, and two things stand out for me about this play. Number one, in the NBA, ball side corner defenders don't help a lot. That's not something that you see a ton at all levels of basketball, but particularly in the NBA, and the analytics show the value of the corner three and how it's the easiest three to make. When you're dribbling at that corner, or if you're on the ball side corner, that help defender typically does not help much. So that's number one. But number two, Joel Embiid is particularly dangerous in this like short roll because Joel Embiid shoots the ball so well. he can do this little short roll here, which most bigs don't do, and catch it at the elbow and knock down a shot. In the NBA, threes and layups are like the most valued shots. Teams are willing to give up mid-range jump shots. So typically in pick and roll, like I said in the last clip, you're going to have the on-ball defender going over the screen, forcing this guy to drive, and then you'll have the big kind of playing like this contain help defense. He's not hedging super hard, right? He's not blitzing the screen. He's going to play this contain because he doesn't want you to get an easy layup. And James Harden does a great job of playing with pace, which we'll see in a later clip, which really puts this guy in a bad spot. The help side, again, they don't want to give up layups. They're not really going to get super aggressive on the short roll. You see this defender kind of steps up into the paint area and kind of stops there because he doesn't want to give up a layup. Joel Embiid is so good at shooting his 15 to 17-foot jump shot. He comes off of the short roll, little pump fake, get the guy off his feet, and that's a layup for Joel Embiid. Like, they're trying to contain a layup. For Joel Embiid, that is a layup. All right, this next pick and roll here might be my favorite in this game, or my favorite moment in this game, my favorite pick and roll two-man game that I saw this game. So you see, in this situation, you have no ball side corner, right? The Sixers are overloading the right side of the floor, and they're just going straight two-man game, James Harden, Joel Embiid. As we've talked about, they're worried about threes. Evan Fournier is going to go over the top. Mitchell Robinson is going to play this contained defense. Now, a lot of people talk about how great James Harden is in pick and roll offense, but many people don't talk about it's because of the pace. Or people talk about it, but they don't really always explain what that means. So if you're just kind of like a casual fan, you hear James Harden plays with pace, James Harden plays with pace, and you don't really understand what they're saying. What they're saying is, I'm going to keep it pause here for a second. If James Harden just comes off of this 100 miles an hour, he's going to meet Mitchell Robinson at the rim, and Mitchell Robinson is 7 feet tall, and that's going to be tough. Maybe James Harden draws a foul, maybe he makes a tough finish, but it's not an easy look. It's not a great look. So what does he do? He drags this guy. Like, he's not coming off of this super fast. He's putting Mitchell Robinson in a position where he has to make a decision. That's what James Harden does so well. And on that first clip, when I talked about how in the pick and roll, ball handlers should be looking at the defense and reading the defense more so than just looking at their guys, he's like, what are you going to do? Because if he steps up too far, if he hedges this, right, when a defender comes up real high on the screen, that's called hedging. You hedge too much, James Harden blows by you, and he does get a layup. Or he causes one of these guys to rotate, and you get that kick to the corner, maybe even one more to Tobias Harris, right? If he doesn't step up at all, well then, sure, James Harden has that little has a jump shot or floater, but he drags Mitchell Robinson even more with another dribble. He's forcing Mitchell Robinson to make a decision. What are you going to do? What are you going to do here, right? And he drags him far enough where he now has this space to drop this ball off to Joel Embiid. You have Julius Randle, once again, kind of in no man's land, but he's in a tough spot because he has to kind of play too. Am I going to go to Joe or am I going to go to Tobias Harris? He's late, right? He's stuck in the middle. The worst thing you could do on defense is be stuck in the middle. Pick one. At least if you're wrong, if you're wrong, you're wrong. But instead, he does nothing. And you get this dump off to Joel Embiid for a layup. Because James Harden is so special in the pick and roll, you almost don't blame Julius Randle for not immediately taking away the screen because Harden is good enough that if Julius Randle does this drop in this area to immediately take away Joe, well, he's going to make the skip pass to Tobias Harris anyway. And he's going to force a rotation. Then you get one more to the corner, and Maxey has a wide open corner three, which we've already established is one of the threes that NBA teams are looking for. So again, he drags Mitchell Robinson, dump off, layup. I just wanted to add a couple more clips here to show kind of what makes Joel Embiid so deadly in pick and roll. So this one isn't with James Harden and Joel Embiid. In fact, this is before James Harden was even there, right? But this is just another example of that short pick and roll because that short roll on the pick and roll is going to be something that Joel Embiid scores on efficiently and often, particularly playing with James Harden. But you can even see it here with Seth Curry, right? You're going to get this high screen and roll. You got the big who, again, he's going to play that contain with the ball on-ball defender going over the top. The problem is with this is that with most bigs, you're doing a good job because what are most bigs going to do? Dive to the rim where you have help. You got help, right? And this guy, if you recover in time, he can just drop back. But Joel Embiid doesn't need to dive to the rim. He can short roll to this mid-post area, which he does. It almost starts as like a fade, and then he's like, wait, I have all this space, and that's an automatic shot for me. He gets it to his spot, He's going to pump fake you. He's going to diddy bop you. Bink, bink. That's a layup. Here, pick and roll with Tobias Harris. Again, over the top. You get that sink. Joel Embiid short roll to that elbow area that he loves so much. That's a layup. So as you guys can see, man, like this, the pick and roll with James Harden and Joel Embiid is incredibly efficient and effective. And it's because, one, the ball handler, James Harden, does an exceptional job of reading the defense. He can throw skip passes over the top if the weak side over helps. He can manipulate the help defender. If you sink too much and you're not in the stands, he's going to attack you. If he can drag you out too far, he's going to make that little drop off to Joel Embiid for a dunk. And on Joel Embiid's short rolls, it completely destroys your standard pick and roll defense because they're trying to protect the rim and not give up a three, and Joel Embiid is going to be wide open at the elbow. So that's my first little film breakdown, just kind of diving into the pick and roll offense that the Sixers are running with Joel Embiid and James Harden and why it's so effective. If you guys like this kind of content and you want more of it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment section what do you want me to break down next, because, I'll do it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Keep it locked here. Sixers Talk Now. Peace.